All right. Well, happy Thursday, everyone. My name is Seychelle Van Poole, and I am here with a very special guest that we have today. We have Sean Provencher here with us from Toronto, Canada. Sean, hello. Welcome for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. This is really cool.
Awesome. We're thrilled to have you as well. Sean is here joining us for our Millionaire Mindset call. And this call today is hosted by the North Texas, New Mexico region. And if you are live on this call today with us, it is because you have been nominated by the regional leadership or your market center leadership to come and join us because you are doing great things in our region. So Sean stood up at Gary Keller's mastermind last month, and we started talking about different markets around the country. And one market that's in an extreme seller's market is Toronto. And Sean started telling us about his market and what's going on. And you guys, you could have heard a pin drop in the room. So I want to go ahead and get started by telling us a little bit about your market and about you and your business. So, Sean, first start off with us and tell us, how did you get into the real estate business?
Okay, so I actually had never had a sales job, and I've never run a business before.
Really?
Before real estate, yeah, I was actually a roadie, like a stage worker for rock and roll shows and stuff like that.
Really?
And,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we had a lot of fun. It was a great job for someone who was 18 or 20 years old. And then I kind of looked around one day and realized that all the people who'd been doing it longer than me didn't really have the life I wanted. And I started looking for opportunities and trying to figure out what was next. And I'd had a friend who was really successful in real estate basically just sit me down and say, like, you know, you're crazy if you don't give this a try. You'd be really good at it. So we basically just took her advice and got in. And that was 9 years ago. And
wow.
Yeah, do you want me to just give you like the 10,000 foot up how we built our business, or do you
Yeah,
want to do that kind of throughout the call?
So 9 years ago, you go from roadie to realtor.
Roadie to realtor. I love it.
I love it. Okay, you're this amazing roadie, and you all of a sudden decide, I don't want to be a roadie anymore. I might want to be a roadie in my vacation time, but maybe not in my full time. And
probably
you
just
decide
never
to get
again.
into real estate.
More.
Maybe
yeah,
never. Okay, maybe never again too. So you graduate from the roadie world and you decide to get into real estate. That's amazing. So talk to me about what happened in those first couple of years for you.
The first couple of years seemed easy because we didn't really have a huge dream for our business. We never really realized that we would grow something as big as we had. So in our first couple of years, I was just like the guy who did open houses and then did follow up. And we started the business with my brother. We've always been partners. So we started our team, called ourselves the Real Estate Brothers. And we got into a moderate level of success within our first couple of years pretty easily. You know, we were always cranking out, you know, say $200,000-$300,000 of commission between the two of us, just by doing open houses on the weekend and following up. We weren't door knocking, we weren't cold calling, we didn't really have a web strategy. It was just a couple friendly guys. Just open houses.
And so and I'm going to ask you a couple questions as we go here. So as you're doing open houses, because that's a really good business to do just off of a straight open house business. Would you say there were any secrets to your success on that, or do you feel like it was kind of purely accidental?
It was mostly accidental. I mean, we had some work ethic, not a tremendous amount.
Sure.
Like we were, you know, well, we had work ethic, but we weren't focused. I would say, we were good at building rapport. We just were relentless with follow-up. Like, you could ignore 20 emails and I'd still be calling you and, you know, checking in and sending you properties. Like, I just never gave up on people. So that made a big difference.
Got it. So for you, it was less about what you did in the upfront. It was more about how you followed up on the back end.
Yeah, that's been a consistent in our market. It's tough for people to trade. We'll get into the market in a minute, but it's hard to buy in Toronto. It's not easy to sell. It costs a lot of money. We're at a really high price point. And so we tend to need to nurture people for a long time while they're finalizing their plans and, you know, getting ready to jump into the pool kind of thing. So
got it. So you've got to nurture people for a longer period of time to build that rapport. So it's not a wham, bam, I meet you today, you're buying tomorrow. It's I may meet you today, and 6 to 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, you're buying.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So you're doing open houses for the first couple of years, and then where do you guys go from there?
Well, what happened was we got, up to, a moderate level of success. But the problem was we had the same numbers for 2 years in a row. Or actually, it was halfway through our third year in a row of having basically the same track record that we looked at each other and we're like, how are we doing? And we realized that not only did it not seem like we were doing great, but we couldn't even say how we were doing because we had no measurements on our business whatsoever. We were just winging it. So that was a long time ago at a brokerage far away, and we changed flags, and that was one of the most moving brokerages to Keller was kind of like the TSN turning point moment for our business. We have always been entrepreneurial, so we're always trying to figure out some new harebrained scheme. We'd stick to it for a month, not get any traction immediately, and then we'd give up and try the next thing. So we came in and we basically Kellerized our business the first year. Learned the acronyms, got comfortable with the models. We read the Red Book, went to systemized lead gen. We went to Bold. We went to Ignite. We went to every single course in the roster just about that was in our region. And that year our business grew by 86%. So we were like, hold on a sec. I guess, door knocking and having consistent, daily and weekly goals and focusing on the right things really made a difference.
Got it.
And that was 4 years ago.
Okay, so that was 4 years ago. And then what happened after that?
Well, what happened was we started to realize that growing the business was really possible. And we realized that if we just kept on focusing on the weak point in our business and making it a strength, we could really continue to grow. So, we were, just doing what came our way for the first 5 years. We kind of relaunched our business when we came to Keller Williams 4 years ago. The first thing was we needed more leads. So we committed to lead generating, and we, went out and door knocked every single day for an entire year. And that was when we had our first growth spurt. From there, we started to focus on getting appointments because we were putting a lot of leads in the database, but we weren't asking enough. So we started getting a lot of appointments.
Got it.
And then we kind of just went down the pipeline. It was really funny. Like, get good at leads, then you get good at appointments. The next thing was actually winning the listing contract. And that was a struggle for us because we're in a high price point market. There are a lot of huge monster teams in the market that we serve. And, a couple of years ago, we just didn't have the wall of value that we do today. So we would go on, there was 1 month, we went on 10 appointments. I think we took 1 or 2 listings. And we had another one of those sit downs. We were like, okay, well, what are we doing? And we realized that we just weren't offering the same things our competition was. So no matter how much you like me, if I'm charging you the same price and offering a third of the services, it's not going to work. No one's going to hire you. So,
but you had to get to the table enough time before you could figure out that that's why you were losing.
And it represented considerable investment, right? So we had to know that the opportunity was there and how we were doing the right thing. So, getting focused on building that wall of value was suddenly a tangible thing for us.
Got it. So first appointments, then getting enough number of appointments to get to the table to figure out if you weren't winning, like 1 in 10. I know you and you're a competitive person. That probably didn't feel great. So then you're figuring out. Sean does not like to lose. So
no, I do not.
Then, you're getting a 10% conversion rate, not liking that. So now you're figuring out the wall of value of what you need to offer. And so what were some of the things that you discovered that you really needed to offer to start winning the business?
Well, first we had to match our competition. So that was simple. That was us literally going out and aligning with a great design team and a staging company. We upped the ante in terms of the brochures we provided. We were the first people in Canada to buy a Matterport camera. So we started offering 3-dimensional tours, but the real thing that made a huge difference for us was our concierge service. So
tell me about that. What does that look like?
So we'll send in our design team, right? Our average price point this year is right around $900,000. And that means my average bill is, between $20,000 and $30,000 just for my side 2 clients. So they expect quite a bit. And we're in a market that has crappy inventory. Like I'll just kind of say it for what it is. Like our average home, probably 80 years old, and they've only recently become so valuable. So most of them aren't tremendously well kept. And for someone coming into this market, spending that kind of money, having a few extra things can make a big difference. Yeah, they want a nice house. And for our sellers, that means that when we come in, we say, hey, we want to get you the best price, but here's the deal. You've got, a honey-do list of about 15, 20 items. And we want to be asking you to paint the kitchen, landscape the yard. We typically ask people to do quite a bit, or we suggest that they would do quite a bit. And what our concierge desk does is, first of all, for the client, it means that they don't have to facilitate all these things. So, they need to paint 3 rooms and fix the carpet and landscape the lawn. We just say, how many quotes do you want on each item? And when are you available to meet the service people? And then we're able to facilitate everything for them. So
got it. And so do you actually, I'm going to ask you a couple questions on this because we're starting to see this in the northern Texas, New Mexico market, but it's not incredibly prevalent yet. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions around it in case there are people on the call that are interested in doing this. So my first question for you is, are you guys actually managing the crews as they come through, or are you just helping them to get quotes?
So we started out by trying to do everything. And I'll just say, if you're trying to provide this service, my best advice, do not micromanage. Keep yourself at arm's length. So we provide the quotes. We will help make sure that the contractors have clarity on when they're going to the home, and the homeowner has clarity on when to expect the contractors. So we, for example, will set them up a Google Calendar. So my clients can always log in if they forget something, and they can see on the calendar that we email them, that Dawn's coming from Dawn's Plumbing at 11 a.m. on Tuesday kind of thing. We ended up getting sucked into a couple pretty substantial renovations. So we ended up doing an entire washroom once for a very, very difficult client. So that was a challenge, and we learned a lot from that, and that we don't really get our arms all the way in anymore. We try to just be service support people. But does that answer your question?
That does. And so that's an amazing service. I think a lot of people realize they need work done to their home, but they don't know who to call, or they don't have the time to help organize getting it all set up in the beginning, but they're willing to meet a service person there. So I think that's a great solution. Because you offer something like that, do you charge a competitive rate to what your competition is doing, or do you charge more in commission than what your competition is doing? Was this like a differentiator to say, pick me over them for the same price, or do you try to then raise your commission rates because of that?
To be honest, in our marketplace, there is rampant commission cutting. So we charge what was the average 5 years ago. I would estimate that probably only 10 to 15% of the market is charging in the same range as us. And it's, so to that point too, I just want to point out too, one of the really cool things about having the concierge service, it's a service to our sellers, and it's a differentiator, which is obviously something great to have in business.
Absolutely.
But the real cool thing about having this kind of service, and if you guys are considering rolling this out in your business, it's the way that it allows you to manipulate the negotiation process between you and the other agents with the seller. Because what will happen is we'll go in and, say that you go into a listing and they schedule a last minute interview with someone else the next day. This has happened to everyone. What we're able to do is walk in and say, look, I know that you have another appointment. I'm really glad we got to meet. After having seen your home, we feel that with our design team, we might be able to actually change the value of your home. We might be able to make a difference in the range of $20,000 to $50,000 as to the final money that goes in your pocket. For me to know if I'm able to do that, I actually need to send my design team through your home. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to, have my designer come in, walk through your home, make a list of suggestions. You can carry out your last interview. And then what I'll do is during the time you're finalizing everything, I can put together a complete proposal for what we think we'll be able to do in terms of manipulating the price, what it's going to take to do that, and a timeline. Now, in order for me to do this, obviously I'm going to be putting out a little money for my designer to come through, and I'm also going to be spending a lot of time. So I'm going to ask you to promise that while you meet these other agents, you're going to be sure to save that appointment for me, and you won't sign anything with another competing agent before me, and you have the chance to look at my proposal together. Does that sound fair to you? And we've basically put ourselves in a position where they definitely won't
are willing to sign.
They won't be signing with anyone until we come back in with that proposal. And when we come back with the proposal, we're the only one who has all the information from my designer. So we'll discuss it with them, but we won't leave it with them unless they hire us. And because we have a concierge service to actually carry all this out, we're providing a hook where they just can't get what we're offering from anyone else. So they're really
That's great.
They've got a really tangible reason that they need us. And as far as unique value propositions go, I don't know any other agent that's doing this in our market. So it's powerful when it comes to listings.
What a great takeaway too, to say, gosh, I would love, to work with you. I realize you have other agents. We've got this bid here for you. Or I can give you, the total number, but in order for me to leave this with you, we need to go ahead and get paperwork done because these people work for us. I can't guarantee you they'd give you the same pricing if you tried to hire them on your own.
Not only that, but I mean, they met the designer and heard her ideas, but they don't get the write-up. So if you want to see what my designer had to say, you're hiring me because I'm not going to spend $200, $300 on the consultation and then give you her phone number and walk out the door. That's my information. I own it.
Right. That's great. So you alluded to this a little bit, and I think there's a lot we can translate between your market and ours. Our price points may be a little bit different in that you guys have had explosive growth in your market and price point in the last several years. Talk to me about your pricing from what it looked like 5 years ago to today. And then second, I want you to tell me a little bit about what your inventory looked like. So pricing, where were you guys 5 years ago?
If you bought a home 5 years ago for about $500,000, today that home's probably worth somewhere in the range of about 1.1 to 1.4 million.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And what kind of a house would that be?
That would be a small 3-bedroom semi-detached home on a side road, maybe with parking and probably not with any significant renovations.
Wow.
And these are century homes too. So we're talking small rooms, knob and tube wiring, and plumbing issues.
Wow.
Maybe throw some termites in too.
Because they do they are guests in the home. We have termites down here too. They're always fun.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
So you've got this older home that has seen explosive growth, and you've got this cute first-time home buyer that bought 5 years ago. What does that conversation look like when they're trying to sell for 1.1 to 1.4 million? Do they have anywhere to go?
Well, this is the thing, right? Like everyone hears this and they think, oh, wow, your home's doubled in value in, sometimes as little as 3 or 4 years. And they're like, wow, that's so cool. You've got all this equity. But equity is kind of like having monopoly money. And unless it helps you to actually achieve something, you can't use it, right? So the problem for us, and like literally, I describe it as an inventory crisis because we don't really have a plan in Toronto to make this better. The problem is that these people would have, gone from 6 to 1.2, and they might have, $600,000-$700,000 of equity in their home. But in order for them to feel like they actually made an upgrade, they need to buy for like 2.5. So while that $700,000 sounds like a really nice pile of money, you still need to upgrade your mortgage an additional $1 million to actually feel like you've made a tangible upgrade, to go from that 1,200 square foot semi to maybe 2,600 square foot detached in probably a neighborhood that's further from town. So people are trapped in their homes. So we're seeing a lot of people who are renovating. We're seeing a lot of people who just want to move but can't afford it. And that in turn makes our market have even less listings, which in turn pushes the prices up again. Combined with low interest rates and 100,000 people moving into the city every year and international money being used speculatively in our market, just literally as an investment, it's tough. It's really tough to buy and sell a home as a consumer in Toronto.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So now you've got almost like a discouraged seller pool that says, gosh, I want to take advantage of all this cash that I could get out of my house, but I have nowhere to put it because I can't move anywhere. So another thing you were talking about too that makes this even more complicated for you is talk to me about what your lending guidelines look like right now in Canada versus what we have here in the United States.
They're pretty tight. So, I mean, we definitely have been pretty cautious, especially after the trouble that you guys experienced 2005 to 2010 kind of thing. So lending guidelines.
Yeah, you guys are trying to learn from us.
We're trying to learn from you guys. We've always been very, very careful about confirming people's finances. So there was never a time in Canada that you could just, work off of stated earnings. It's always been something that the banks would confirm on.
Right.
They've several times in the past few years, they've added requirements designed to both protect the market and make it slightly more difficult to get a loan. Just, they're not trying to actually cool the market, but they're trying to slow it down a little bit. I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, in terms of—
It does. And one thing you were telling us about, which is not the case here in the United States right now, is that in order for a buyer to get a loan, let's just play the game for $1 million. What do they actually have to do? Like, let's say they want to buy a home for $1 million. What do they actually have to be able to qualify to buy that $1 million house?
They need to be able to qualify.
You guys were talking about
a 5-year rate. They need to qualify at a 5-year rate. They need to have a 20% down payment. Over $1 million, they don't allow less than 20. So all of a sudden, your down payment's jumping up to about $200,000. And our average home price, too, I should say, right now is $940. So
wow,
your average home
for your starter
in
home
the Greater Toronto area, yeah, that's like including several subdivisions. Like you could drive for 45 minutes to your home from downtown, and that's still considered the Greater Toronto area. And
right.
And if you include all those suburbs, including an area of probably 10 million people, you're still looking at $940 being the average price.
Wow. So
yeah,
the other thing I
tough.
remember you mentioning, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if you're going to qualify for $1 million house in Canada, you actually have to be able to qualify for a home actually closer to like 1.2, 1.3 million just to get the million.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, because of the
here
lending.
Here in Texas,
guidelines.
I want to buy $1 million house, then I got to qualify for $1 million house. But for you guys, it's if I want to buy $1 million, I've got to qualify for 1.2 or 1.3.
Exactly. And not only
wow.
that, if you're bidding on $1 million house, chances are that it's listed somewhere. Put it like this: if you have a home that's listed for $1 million, chances are it's actually going to be selling somewhere in the 1.15 to 1.3 range. Like we frequently will see people going between $100,000 and $300,000 over the asking price.
Holy cow. That makes me feel really good about in our North Texas, New Mexico, and Memphis market, where we're going right now for, I would say, somewhere around, 20 to, on the high end, $100,000 over list price versus what you're seeing as 100 would be a starting point going above that. So
yeah, I mean, that's like the perception with buyers.
You're making me feel really good.
Good. I want you to feel good about what's going on.
I know that was not the goal of today's call, but I feel really great about our market right now.
There you go. So, you're welcome.
Thank you. If anything, it was an ego booster, if nothing else. So your first question that we have is, would any of your sellers like to relocate to Texas? I think we can help you out with a much lower price point if you would need that.
Truthfully, what we are seeing is a lot of people who, like the baby boomers, for example, there's a lot of them who are sitting on these homes that are 3-4 bedrooms, and they've got maybe 2,500, 3,500 square feet in the suburbs surrounding Toronto, and they're sitting on these homes worth 1.1, 1.3, 1.6, 1.8, that kind of thing. But the problem is that builders are so eager to speculate on smaller homes, like a smaller detached property that they could build on.
Sure.
There's such activity on those in terms of builders wanting to top it up and create like a larger custom home to resell, that the price gap for those people to sell isn't really enough to justify the downgrade. So people either will just stay in their homes, like you'll have 2 people and a cat living in 3,000 square feet, basically looking for each other all the time, or they're leaving town. So like we do a lot of listings that we don't have the opportunity to help buy because they're either renting or they're moving several hours away.
Wow. So that leads me to my next question is, where do you get your leads from?
Okay, so after we figured out how to win, 9 out of every 10 listing appointments instead of 1 out of every 10 by building our concierge desk, the next thing was to get more listing appointments. So we actually flew down to Texas and hung out with some of the awesomer people in your region for a day, and were inspired to come home and build an ISA team. So we came straight home, and in typical fashion for us, we went, incredibly aggressive right away, and we hired 10 virtual assistants to cold call through the Toronto region for us.
Okay.
So,
and how did that go?
In our board, you're not allowed to actually cold call to solicit listings without a license. So what we did was a little different. We just did
same with here too.
Oh, great. Okay. So, you know what you could try is what we did, and it worked for about 2 years. We did a survey. So we would have our virtuals cold call and ask a three question survey with something like, how long have you been in your home? When do you believe you'll move next, 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 years? And then we had asked them under what circumstance they consider selling right away. And if they answered any of those questions in a way that the survey agent believed might indicate a pending move, then they would bin them for a future call from our sales staff.
Wow.
So we were bringing somewhere in the range of 800 to 1,000 leads in every month for listings.
Wow.
And then we had 2 licensed callers in the city who worked out of our office as follow-up agents, so ISAs, who would call them back immediately, qualify their needs, and try to book us an appointment. And that was our main lead killer for about a year and a half. And we're still, our database is just packed with leads from doing that. We have about 2,000 leads in our database right now that are pending a move in the next 2 years that are qualified and are expecting our follow-up calls. So it worked tremendously well. Unfortunately, we went too big too quick and we hired 10 of them, and we didn't realize how quick we cover the city. In our database for our power dialers, we have about 1 million numbers, and these 10 agents would completely cover the entire city once every 4 to 5 months. So after you've received the survey 3 or 4 times, people just, I don't know if they were onto it or the numbers just fell off. So, it was really great for a little while, and then we kind of pulled back a little bit.
So do you foresee then that you've got enough leads from that to help you sustain business for the next several years while you're figuring out what you're going to do next? Or how do you,
we already know what we're doing next. What we've done
what do you do next?
We've done that. Next, we're doing a substantial investment in websites. So we're launching about 3 or 4 micro websites that should be a pretty solid lead source, but it'll push us back towards balance between buyers and sellers because we're heavily balanced towards the seller side right now. And we're looking at farming the area surrounding our team brokerage. We have like a small micro office just for our team. So it's like a sub brokerage kind of thing. And we're kind of planning to farm that area. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're on to next.
Got it. So, and how long do you think, I love how strategically you're looking at your business as a far out, you're casting the net out, you're looking out 2 to 3 years for where you want to go. You've got your today business you're humming through, and now you're looking at your business moving forward 2 to 3 years out.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of agents don't know what they're doing for lunch today, much less 2 to 3 years out. So I think it's great to hear your perspective and where you're forecasting your vision.
Thank you.
As you're looking 2 to 3 years out, how many people are you going to have to staff up then to be able to take it to the next level? Can you walk us through what your team looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we have 8 salespeople. My brother and I. Sorry, 7. There's 7 on the chart. We're bringing 1 in this week. They're not there yet. So my brother and I.
And do they all do buyer and sell side?
They all do both. With the difficulty associated in winning a buy deal in our market, we feel that if we only allowed our buyer's agents to do the buy side, we would face really, really, really brutal turnover. So we do have a certification process they have to go through. I'm happy to tell you about that in a minute, but our agents do both. So basically what we've done is we've broken the team into 2 roles. So last year until about September, Dylan was actually the listing agent on our team. He did about 250 appointments between nurture appointments and signable listing appointments. He was just nonstop in the car. And I was coaching the operations staff and the sales team and trying to recruit and trying to onboard and trying to put out every single fire that was, constantly being set because we know what this business is like. And neither of us were really as effective as we could be. So now what we've done is we've separated roles where Dylan is the director of sales and operations. So he manages the entire sales team. holds all the accountability sessions. He does lunch and learns on the listing presentation. And he also coaches and mentors the operations team. I actually have a very small interaction with the team in terms of like a weekly coaching basis. I attend a couple meetings. I actually only attend 3 meetings with the team. We have one on Monday with the entire team. I have one with just the leadership group. And then we have one on Fridays. And essentially I'm more of a mentor or someone who they would ask a question to than someone who's directing them. I've passed that responsibility completely to Dylan. And in terms of growing the team, that's my role 100%. So
and I want to circle back on this too, Sean, to say like all of this has really grown in the last 4 years, right?
Yeah, like 4 years ago, like I could have just started from scratch. We really had nothing 4 years ago except for Scott Shrimpton. He's the operations manager. This
is amazing. Like Gary always says to us, right? Gary Keller always says, you're no more than 5 years away from anywhere you want to be in your life, right? You're in year 4, and look at what you guys have built. I mean, this is living proof that truly we are no more than 5 years away from being where we want to be. I mean, come on, your title even says director of growth. Like you're the top dog, right? You're the DOG, director of growth. That's awesome. So, okay, keep going.
I love it.
So this is really neat.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of my responsibility now, my entire focus is being stripped to just bringing agents onto the team. So
and while you're one thing we taught your job is to really help recruit with that. Is Dylan still in? One question we have just as we're going through your org chart is Dylan still in production today, or is he completely out of production now?
So I will sell 0 homes this year, and Dylan will sell 0 homes this year. Occasionally get roped into an appointment. Neither of us will sell any properties. Occasionally, existing team members is receiving a referral from one of our past clients or is absorbing one of our past clients from us. I'll go on the meeting to soften the past off and just make sure that we're still friends and everyone's cool. But I can't.
But as far as working that deal,
I will not work a deal. I'd rather lose a client than work a deal because I need to maintain the focus that Dylan and I have.
Okay. And then the second question is, do either of you, as director of growth, or Dylan as director of sales and operations, do either of you have coaches? That was a question Elizabeth had for you too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I coach. We both have coaching contracts with MAPS.
Okay. And is there any specific like focus that you have for your coach to help you grow in certain areas, or is it just I need help in all areas of my life?
It's very business focused. Dylan is focused. So me and Dylan have different goals, as our roles would suggest. So his goal is pretty simple. His goal is to make every single sales agent on our team hit their goal. So he's shooting for 100% of goal, and they set their own goals, and he coaches with them. They coach with his coach. So we have a coach for the sales team, and then his coach with Dylan. So she coaches the team, and he also coaches with her, and they talk about how to get people on track. My coach is focused exclusively on recruiting. So, we focus a lot on booking appointments. We focus on the wall of value that our team provides, how to make sure that people understand what we're doing. And I've got a number of projects I run that are focused on putting me in front of people. So I teach a lot. I run a group on Facebook where people can interact and share ideas, and we put up a lot of live training videos kind of like this. And my role is very focused on, just networking and brushing shoulders. And, once you build a team to this size and you have a great staff and you got systems, when you bring the right talent in the door, they want to work with you. So it's not so much about selling as just finding the right people and getting into a relationship and giving them an opportunity.
Got it. And then we've talked a lot about your sales team here. Talk to me about your operations team too. You guys have really staffed up a pretty impressive group over here on the operations side. What does that look like?
Oh, they're so awesome. I just love them. They are the backbone of our business, right? Like our sales staff can come and go, and I can always, like, if I started back from zero, I could always get back into production. I know for sure I'd close, 500 to 700,000 with no running start my first 12 months. So it's really the operations team that's indispensable. The other thing is we're looking at growing our team throughout all the market centers in my region. And eventually, I'd love to expand in the United States as well. So in doing that, Gary always talks
about
have to really building a platform. We have to step up. We have to staff up. And what we've been spending the last 2 years doing is really just cleaning house. So instead of focusing on sales, like the last 2 years, we've still seen probably 25, 30% growth every year. But instead, what we've had our head down doing was we have been building and nurturing the people on the right-hand side of the chart. So our director of lead gen, Ashley, we actually stole her from the Smithsonian somehow. I don't know what she was thinking coming to work with us. Ragtag bunch of dudes.
She saw opportunity.
She saw the opportunity. You know what? That is it, though, right? She saw that she wasn't happy where she was, and she didn't have a long-term growth path. She came in just doing marketing and design stuff for us. We kept on giving her more projects. She kept on knocking them out of the park. And then finally, she'd just been beaten up by her current employer because they were on a time crunch. And we said to her, like, look, we really feel like you could have a long-term thing here. And she agreed to work with us full time. Since then, she's actually been instrumental in helping us align the roles of our entire operations team. She rebranded the company. We used to be called the Real Estate Brothers. Today we're called Path Real Estate because we just wanted a less gender biased name, and we also wanted to have a name that kind of painted a bigger picture.
Right.
And right now she's in the middle of refining our database and our lead flow systems, and she's also trying to crack the nut on social and web lead generation. So she does all our blog posts. She does anything to do with the image of our company. She does.
She touches
next to her. Yep. Scott next to her is our operations manager. He was the first person we hired in this business. It was actually an old friend of ours. He'd just finished graduating business school. And we hired him part-time and just built him up. And then he's indispensable. Like, he pays every bill. He manages every dollar in the business. I literally haven't opened a piece of mail in like 5-6 years at this point. Unless it feels like there's a gift card in it. In that case, I might give it a little bend and just say, you know what, let's check this out. But
Let me help
he
you
manages
open
everything. Oh yeah, and Scott, like, his rule is like, don't bring me any problems unless you already have a couple options in terms of solutions. And very few things make it back to our desk when something's going wrong. He'll just say, hey, like, this happened with this, and this is what we did. Just that, we're like, cool, sounds great, you got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather underneath Scott actually should be moved up. She reports to both Scott and Ashley. However, her role is really focused on listings now. She's been with us a couple of years, so she's like our listing manager. So Scott is the concierge for contractors, but she's the person who manages the stagers, the photos, the brochures, the sign writers, the flyers, every single little thing.
So she's the day-to-day outside of the concierge with the sellers.
Yeah, showing feedback reports. This is when this is happening. Carlos was
I have a question for you too on that. So you have sales agents that are taking follow-up well enough or have the right conversations to set expectations with sellers. Once a home is, the listing paperwork is signed, are your sales team having regular conversations with your sellers, or is someone like Heather and Scott taking that part over?
What we tried to do was remove the bulk of the communication that required research and thoughtfulness, and put that on the operations team. And then anything that's negotiation related, how we're doing check-ins and just relationship management stuff is on the sales team side. So the operations staff will keep them up to date on, who's going to be at the open house and what time it starts and how many showings happen between now and Tuesday and how many views we had on the web and all that stuff that takes a little time to get the info together. And the sales team will be the one who said, hey, we had a showing today that came back for a second time, or, we have someone who's talking about offers. They were curious about this closing date and all that kind of stuff.
Got it. Okay. That makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to clarify on that because we get asked that a lot on who does what on that listing side. Okay. And then I noticed you have a huge virtual assistant team.
Yeah, so Carlos was the first one that we hired, and he helped us to hire the 10. The 10 is being scaled back now. So essentially what we have are 4. I've written 2 of their names because those ones do a ton of support. We've pulled back on surveys, but we still have a couple of them who are helping us manage like the call sheets for our agents. And we have one who's helping me with recruiting. So she, does research on people and stuff like that. And we're basically, tying the last few off in terms of the ones who are doing the surveys. We have a couple that are just so good, we really don't want to lose them too. So it's one of those uncomfortable things where you're like, I put, a lot of time and energy into nurturing your skills, and you're just an awesome person who works really hard and loves your job. So when we have someone like that, we always want to make sure that we give it our best shot
at finding opportunity.
Position.
Yeah,
totally.
That's great. And so then you've got this virtual assistant team now that you're working to help make sure you're finding opportunities for them to stay busy and to keep you running, so that you don't lose them. So,
and like with the 7 sales agents, there's just a lot of busy work, lead inputting, double checking things, making sure that they all have the call sheets they need. Like that alone is pretty much a full-time job for at least one person.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's something that definitely a VA could really help with. So if you take this work chart and you look, a year, 3, 5 years into the future, does this look the same? Are there things that you would be changing over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, recruiting is my full-time job, but we don't actually bring a ton of people into the business. We're very, very careful about who we bring in, because we were only looking for people who we know will be successful in sales and we believe could be strong leaders in the future. So Dylan, being the director of sales, he could probably manage, we believe, between 20 and 40 salespeople. You do some group meetings, you figure out how to leverage some of the one-on-ones, that kind of thing. Once we grow to the point that we have some of our salespeople who have been with us for 2 or 3 or plus years, and they've built up their business to the point that they're doing a ton of buy and sells, and they're gaining influence, and they're $15 to $20 million producers, this kind of talent is going to say what's next. And in order for our company to grow, we need to give people opportunities, and we also need to have a leadership lever that we can pull. So the goal is that the agents on our team would have the opportunity, kind of like expansion, to grow pods of their own. So Toronto is a huge city. We've got somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 market centers that you can, build a team out of. But even more importantly, like there were 21,000 trades on our board last month. So for us, like I could have probably 100 to 100. It's a lot of trades. Our board has 52,000 members. It's actually the largest real estate board on earth. And we look at this and we're like, we're tempted to use the word expansion, but we're not really. Well, and it's a unique thing where we don't necessarily need to go out and find a potential leader, a 2-hour drive away and build him up from scratch. We can, kind of
you could incubate them from
them under our own roof, incubate them, and then, instead of saying, you're the leader of the team at this market center, we can literally just have people running teams that served a small geographic farm, for example. So the goal is that each of those salespeople in the next 2 to 3 years is going to have another 2 to 3 salespeople under themselves. And then I'm constantly adding people into the top line who Dylan builds up and nurtures into more potential leaders. So our goal is to grow the team by at least one awesome agent every single month.
Got it. That makes sense. And then just while we're on the topic of your org chart here, what is your sales onboarding and training look like once you've got somebody in? So that's something I know we're working on our team. So this is a selfish question for me here.
No, that's
we're
cool. I
working
love
on
it.
that with our team right now.
To be honest, this was one of our weak points, but we've got some stuff together. We're still growing in this area. So what we discovered was if you bring an agent in and you slowly push them towards success and you set incrementally larger goals, it makes everything a struggle. So you'd have someone who say, go make, 50 contacts your first week. And then the second week you say, okay, hit 75. And then the third week you say, okay, now we're going to go for 100. It feels hard every single week. Whereas, and I didn't invent this, I stole this from the Loken group. If you take someone in and you say, your first month is going to really suck, by the way, expect to be training constantly and working really hard and you're going to be exhausted. And what we do is we have our teammates complete 1,000 contacts their first month on the team. So, wow. Yeah, and it does a couple things. First of all, it puts the intensity to 11.
Right. But after that, everything's easy.
And it means that everything's easy afterwards. So they come out of it and they're like, wow, this is hard. Okay, this isn't too bad. Week 3 and 4 just is normal all of a sudden. And then week 5, we're like, well, you can keep going. Or if you can keep going if you want more appointments, or you can pull back and do the regular standard of 10 hours of lead gen every week, 2 hours every morning. And suddenly it's refreshing and easy to be doing what our team standard is. So we've had a lot of success. The other nice thing is it's really easy to get distracted doing a bunch of useless crap when you get your license, right? You're worried about this, you're worried about that. How do I book an appointment? They have no choice but to focus. And they also come out of it with a pipeline. So by the time you've spoken to 1,000 contacts, if you don't have leads, we're not moving forward. Now. Yeah, exactly. But it also gives us a really clear percentage of their conversions, right? Because we have 1,000, it's a nice sample size. And we can say, okay, you're getting the average number of leads that you should for that volume, but you're not getting the appointments. Are you asking for the appointments? Exactly. And we can just go through and kind of pick at their entire pipeline to see what it is that they're needing. And then we can coach them to that. So it's a lot of activities their first month. Dylan, every single day of the week, hosts a lunch and learn. So you go sit upstairs with Dylan while you eat your lunch, and he coaches on his listing presentation and how to close. We have a coaching call that they have to attend. We have scripting calls every morning. So there's a lot of structure. And the nice thing is it's just kind of gotten to be a standard thing that happens every week. It's the norm. It's just always going. It's not like we get a new agent and we start doing something that we weren't doing last week. We just slide them into the shuffle. You're going to be on the scripting call at 8:30 every morning, and expect that you should be on the coaching call on Mondays at 12:30, and expect this and expect that, and you can just kind of familiarize yourself and get used to it.
And one thing you and I were talking about that I would love for us to focus on as we're wrapping up our call today is, if you had to do it all over again, any advice?
I think that one of the things that, first of all, commit to prospecting, and don't try to be smarter than anyone. Just go out and find someone who's being successful. Look at what they're doing and do that. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. I wasted 5 years doing that. Commit to lead gen, and hold yourself to a standard. We wavered on standards forever until Dylan finally became the person who was in the office doing accountability every day. And now we're having our first 100% year where every single agent on the team hits 100% of standards and 100% of their goals. And if I would have had that kind of focus and that kind of relentless unwillingness to waver on what I said I was going to do in the beginning of my career, I'd be way further ahead right now. I think
that's fair advice. Yeah,
totally. Gary said something that I really loved at his last mastermind. He was talking about, if you're new to an area or to a skill set, he was actually talking to me about recruiting. So I was asking questions and I'm trying to figure out what the best, levers are for my use. He said, use the scatter approach. So if I had it to do over again and I was starting fresh, I would do a little bit of everything for about, 90 days, but I work really hard at it. And then I'd choose 3 pillars and I'd really focus on them. So I'd probably have a small farm that I door knocked in relentlessly. I would work my sphere, and I'd have, some third pillar that was unique to what the market in my area needed. And I would just do those things and I would relentlessly door knock. And then I would door knock. And after that, I would go door knocking again.
I love that. And really drill deep and become an expert in those.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, Sean, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've given us today. I'm seeing lots of messages coming in saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So if someone wants to send you a referral to Toronto or surrounding areas, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You know what? My phone number there works. The email, that's my direct email. You can always get me there. We're always also looking for talent. So if anyone has an awesome friend who wants to get into real estate and wants to get their butt kicked for a couple of years while they build a really big business and get their skills up at an incredibly high pace, that's the kind of people we'd like to speak to as well.
I love that. Well, do
you all have any questions? Is there anything that I can help you guys clarify, or did I say anything that wasn't 100% crystal clear or anything like that?
I think I was catching your questions as it was going through too, to kind of help make sure I was crystallizing them as we were going. So I know if we have additional follow-up questions too, they're going to be reaching out to you either at sean.p@beginyourpath.com, or your phone number, just in case anyone's on audio and not on the computer, is 416-803-5166. And I can't thank you enough. This is fantastic. I am really thankful. And actually, next up, we have a friend of yours on, Miss Amy Youngren, is going to be on our call next month, talking about video and how she's been able to grow her business with video. So that will be on June 1st at 11 a.m. So Sean, this is tremendous. If we have any referrals, they're coming to you up there. And this is just awesome. Thank you.
That's awesome. No problem, guys. And be sure you log in for Amy too. She runs she's got a totally different business from mine, and I have so much respect for how she's built it. It's really, really cool stuff. So you guys would be crazy to miss it. Be sure you get on that call.
Love it. Thank you again, Sean, so much. Have a fantastic Thursday, and we'll be sure to send you the link as soon as this is live as well.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Seychelle, and hope you guys got something from this.
You too. Thank you. Yes, we definitely did. Thanks, Sean.